broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm very excited to be here to talk about how you can align your sales content with your B2B buyer's journey and be joined by Gil Canary today. We'll kick the webinar for just a few minutes. We have a bunch of folks still logging in, so please be patient. I'm sure many of you have attended webinars in the past, but we have a kind of standard housekeeping stuff. I'll just let you know right now. If you're having audio issues or anything like that, feel free to use the chat function. We have support on staff ready to help you with any questions you might have there. Also, if you are having any challenges with seeing the screen progress or anything like that, please use chat as well there. Just so we can keep on tabs of everything. As always, we will share the recording and the slides from this deck within 24 hours after this event. And so just be patient and we will get that out to you, to all attendees and folks who registered. And it will be available on demand as well on pfl.com. Gil and I are joining from very opposite locations today. I'm in lovely Livingston, Montana. Just got about a foot of snow, and Gil is joining us from Austin, Texas. So you get the cold and the warm side from your presenters today. Gil, what's the temperature there in Austin?
It's a frigid 50 degrees. So we're all bundled up here. Fireplaces are going and everything.
They were really hoping we were to get up to about 30 degrees today, but yesterday I think the high was 15 degrees. So All right. Well, it looks like we're kind of slowing down on the number of attendees logging in, so we'll go ahead and kick off today. Just to reiterate, first, good morning or good afternoon, I guess, for a few of you on the East Coast joining us. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar on Mind the Gap, how to align your content with the B2B buyer's journey. My name is Daniel Gogler, and I'll be the moderator of today's webinar. I'm the CMO here at PFL. A few housekeeping items just before we kick things over to off today. We're going to record today's webinar, and we'll share it via email in the next 24 hours to everyone who registered and attended. If you have any questions at any time during this webinar, please feel use the questions tab. We'll queue up your questions. We may be able to answer some even in the flow of the presentation. So don't wait till the end. Just go ahead and submit those questions. If you're having technical issues or poor sound quality, please use the chat tab and we'll work to help you out. We have staff there to help support you. And so now let's go ahead and we'll get this kicked off. And so I'm, again, CMO here at PFL, Daniel Gogler, and I'm happy to be joined today by Gil Canary, Senior Research Director at Serious Decisions. Go ahead and say hi, Gil.
So good morning and afternoon, everybody, today.
So first, to kick things off, I want to kind of talk about a trend that we're seeing in marketing. And this is from our realization we had here at PFL, and our customers are coming to us and seeing over and over. And this is the role of marketing in an organization is rapidly changing. And if you're in marketing, you no doubt know this, but what is it changing? Where is it going? What is the new responsibility to marketing? And engaging customers today requires a commitment from the entire company. And if it's marketing's job to create engagement and to craft the customer experience, we as marketers need to enable the entire organization to deliver that experience across every single touch point. And that also includes providing the technology and the tools to engage. And if you're attending this webinar, you likely realize that your sales and service teams lack these tools and skills to provide the value and engage customers wherever and whenever they may be, and delivering your content across all those channels. So, but you need, as marketers, also need help to carry that buyer further down the journey than before. And that's why we need the entire organization to be in marketing. You need help from your sales team, your customer success teams, anyone who's customer facing. So I'm happy to have Gil Canary here, Senior Research Director at Serious Decisions, today to help discuss the gaps they've found between marketing and sales, content and the buyer steps you can take to help bridge that gap. Gil, go ahead and take it away and talk to us about the role of sales as a as a content activation channel.
Sure. Thanks, Daniel. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Serious Decisions, we're the leading B2B research and advisory company. So we work with a whole range of clients, including some of the largest corporations in the world down to some startups, about how they can align their marketing, sales, and product work. So in that role, we do a lot of research, and we do a lot of proprietary research and studies to try and determine, what the nature of the market is at any given point in time. So as Daniel was saying, with the rise of digital, with the focus on the buying journey and needs, and making sure that you're speaking to the buyer for what they need, content is king. Getting that content in front of everybody is a huge part, and is a huge part of the job. And the natural sense is, hey, let's everybody be marketing. And that's true, except that one of the things that we want to point out is, as we do our research, and this is from our 2017 buying study, we actually went out and asked B2B marketing or B2B leaders that actually made a B2B purchase in the last 6 months or so. Around 800 of them responded. And we said, how important was sales? How many pieces of content did the winning sales rep provide you over the course of your buying journey? And if you look at the number, it's pretty big. 6.3 in education, 6.1 in solution, 4.9 all the way down in selection. And what this says is, getting content in front of people is important, and being marketing is important, like Daniel says, but part of marketing's job is actually to arm sales with the right content so that they can deliver the right information to the right people at the right time. In the end, the beautiful thing about sales is it's the original artificial intelligence, right? They can sit there and look at a person and understand this is exactly what this person needs in order to be successful. And to make that work, to make that happen, our job as marketers is to make sure that they have that content at the ready. So when you look at the research that we did, if you look at the next question that we asked in this buying insight study, what you'll find is, that set of content is huge. So this question, the way that we asked it is, we asked those purchasers, tell us what content the winning rep sent you, the people that you bought from, and tell us what percentage of reps use that. And then also, those answers are in the dark colors, dark blue, dark green, and slightly lighter blue. And then show us what the second place, the runner-up rep from the company you didn't buy from, showed you. And when you look at it, there's a couple of really striking things. One is there's a huge variety of content across this, and it's not just in education. Content is critical to get the client into the process through the selection of your actual solution, but also all the way through the point where they make the selection of the purchase, like the decision itself. So one thing that I want you guys to take away from this is the variety of content that shows up here across the range of the buying motions or the buying journey stages. Also look at, really interestingly, look at the content in education and selection. There's a lot of overlap there, because what you find is the stuff that gets them interested in the end is a lot of the same stuff that closes the deal. So the variety is huge. The amount that the winning salesperson uses is huge, but also look at the disconnect between the winning and the second place salespeople. The way that these are ordered in education, solution, and selection is according to how the winning sales rep used them. If you look at the gray bars, their order is different. They were emphasizing different things. They were using less content and less things. And in the end, that was a big determiner in whether or not you were going to come in first in the sales process or second. So Daniel, I know that you guys work with a lot of companies, in this type of content analysis and this kind of review. Do you guys seeing the same thing in your work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about from a marketing standpoint, like knowing that a buyer is engaging with 18 pieces roughly of different content in the cycle, that's a lot of content. One of the things we try from a marketing standpoint is how do we distribute more content. And so on your previous slide, just seeing how much, it's just the volume of content that salespeople who are winning deals are sharing, it stands out. The other thing I think is really interesting from a marketer's point of view is this is what marketers are used to doing, right? We're trying to think about what content, when in the sales, the buyer journey should it be delivered, and how do we deliver that medium to the customer. But sales has kind of went off hunches, and so they haven't necessarily had all the data to be able to do this effective. And so this is exactly the trend that we're seeing in our marketing and with our customers, that they are trying to identify when they should use content, how do they prompt their salespeople, tell their salespeople when they should distribute that content in order to increase the likelihood of that deal winning. Gil, I'm not sure if we lost you there. Not hearing your audio right now.
Oh, sorry guys.
Oh.
I think I cut out for a second. So I was actually saying that, Daniel, that's exactly what our research found. You were saying that being able to pick the right content at the right time is critical. So when we did our European buyer insight study, what we found is there is salespeople are delivering the right information to the clients at the education, a little bit in solution, but when they get down to the selection stage, there's a real divergence between what the client said affected their decision and what sales ended up delivering. So that speaks to one of the big challenges, and we'll speak to it in the rest of this presentation about, it's not just making sure that they've got content, it's making sure that they've got the right content and can actually understand what it is that they need to deliver when. Because if you can make all of these things turn into happy faces, your revenue will take off and you'll do better compared to your competitors.
Absolutely.
So how do you do that, right? That's a big step. So to us, if you're going to improve that alignment of sales content to the salesperson to the right time, in the end, that really hinges on understanding how companies buy from you. Most of you out there probably don't have one company journey. You may have multiple. You have some clients that you get a chance to talk to the executive and the executive purchases, and that's very different from situations when you're working with operational people and you have to climb the ladder, help them help you make the case for purchase to the executives. So one of the first things that we do if you want to really improve your alignment, understand the buying journeys, understand how they buy from you, not how you sell, but how they buy from you, and make sure that you're explicitly supporting the variety and range of that. Because inside each of those buying journeys are a set of people. The personas that you're dealing with are going to differ depending on how they're buying. Sometimes you'll have a senior decision maker as your primary contact. Sometimes it'll be somebody much more operational. But if you understand how people are buying from you, you can figure out the personas that matter to you. And if you know how to do that, then you can drive the right content and format to make a difference. This is a big process and this is a big change because in many cases, people make the decision about what content and how they're going to deliver it as the primary decision. What we're saying here in 1, 2, 3 is the decision is not about that. The decision is who am I going to target and what do they need? That's the decision. The content and how you deliver it become an implication of that decision. And that's fundamentally the base level switch you have to make when you're looking at that buyer need, that buyer in, rather than organization out approach. So if you can make that switch, you're going to be most of the way there. But you have to do this at scale, and that's where 4, 5, and 6 come in. Because if you're going to do this and you've got a good number of salespeople, you're going to need structure and processes so that sales and marketing can agree on what that buying journey is. So what content sales is requiring, so that you can make sure that whatever content you're creating, they're actually getting, they understand it, and they know how to use it. On top of that, and one of the things that we see across all our research is, yes, the salesperson is delivering 18 different pieces of content, but they're having a conversation with you through inbound as well, through digital means. So you've got to make sure that you're orchestrating your content so that your inbound digital message is reinforcing what you're saying through your sales teams. And then lastly, as you look through this, you want to make sure that this is a closed loop system. You're going to guess wrong. You just are, because if this was easy, we'd all be done. So what you want to make sure of is as you make your first assumption, your first guesses, you're collecting that information and that data and feeding it back in to constantly optimize and tweak and make sure that you're delivering the right message and creating the right content at any given point in time. Daniel, I bet you see sort of companies going through this process a lot in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big change today is the technology and the integrations of those technologies and just how advanced we've got there, and then the ability to use some of the latest tech, which is machine learning or artificial intelligence, to help manage the process and to prompt our teams and analyze and understand when we should be distributing that content. And to your point on a closed loop system, it's also what works this year may not be what works next year, because the buyer's need and the buyer's journeys change over time as well. And so that's exactly what we're seeing teams implement these processes, installing these structures and working to develop the processes to do that, but really enabled by the technology to be able to create this closed loop evolving system and kind of an ecosystem of sales and marketing alignment rather than a launch and forget.
In the end, that technology is what enables scale, because we find a lot of companies can do this, but it takes almost extraordinary effort. So they can do it for a program or an audience or a product. But for it to make a difference, you got to be able to do it across your entire product range and market range and segment range, and that's going to require technology, service support, all kinds of things to make sure that you can reach all of your people and provide the level of customization across the board. So let's take a look at how we think about this flow. Let's start by going through the buying journey. You guys have all seen buying journey diagrams before, and this isn't significantly different. We have an education and a solution and selection stage. A couple of wrinkles that we add to it because we think it's absolutely critical in how to best take advantage of understanding a buying journey. The first are those gray boxes on your left. The buying journey as a construct is the same, but the way people enter it is different. Some of the people coming into your buying journey may not be a client of yourself or any other provider of your services. So they're coming in, with a largely, they don't know much about the product. They don't have a lot of experience in it. Their starting point, what they're looking for, is going to be different than somebody who's coming in that's a client of yours, that second box. They already know you. They know your products. There's a certain level of information that they're starting with that's, again, different from the status quo. And then lastly, you've got people that are coming in that are customers of your competitors. Those are your favorite ones, right? You want to convert those guys into your customers. So as you look at the buying journey, think about where they're starting from. If you look at the buying journey as well, the concept of demand type starts to come in, because if you look at what you're trying to do, in education, you're trying to get them to understand that there's a problem or an opportunity that they should either fix or take advantage of. So you got to get them to start thinking, hey, the way I do things now isn't perfect, and I should commit to this new change. Once you get past that, in the solution stage, then they start looking around and trying to figure out the best way to solve any one of these individual problems. Most problems have multiple solutions. Your goal is to show that your approach is the best, the approach that you support, and get them to commit to that to the point where they're ready to basically pull the trigger. And that's when they move into the selection stage. You have to help them justify the decision, make sure that they're willing to spend the time and money to make this change, and then pick your product. So when you look at this, the demand type matters, and this is a critical concept, because to us, not every product gets sold the same way. Some products are what we call new concept. That product to a specific market or a target audience is brand new. They don't even understand what it is and how it can help them solve a problem or give them a new opportunity. So new concept products require a ton of education. This is a situation where, they don't even understand your product. You have to tell them what it is before you can start to sell it. The other interesting thing about new concept in light of where sales plays is nobody does a lot of research. Nobody sets budget aside. Nobody starts a project to buy something they don't know exists, because you just don't, right? You can't. So in a new concept sale, the role of sales actually pushes into education, because they've got to get out there and drum up interest and make sure people are interested in buying this product, which means that you've got to arm them with all the education materials. When you start to get into things like new paradigm, this is when your product solves a problem, but they already understand the problem. They've probably got a product that fixes it. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of time in education. The focus is really making sure they understand your solution, the differentiations, the value of your solutions, and then working towards the selection phase. So here, sales needs something different. It's a lot of positioning. It's a lot of explanation or value definition about your products. And then lastly, established market. Everybody will buy this product at some point. There's not necessarily a lot of product differentiation. It's a lot about the deals. It's a lot about sort of the externalities of the purchase. Here, you just have to help them justify the decision to buy yours, because they're going to buy it. So when you look at buying journeys, think about it from the context of where they come in and what kind of product that you're selling, because it definitely affects the focus of the buying journey. The other thing to look at, once you understand the buying journey, is to see the different roles that are in it. There's the big distinction between B2C and B2B is B2B is much more complicated because you're rarely selling to one person. We have this concept called buyer roles. These are the roles personas play. These are not personas, but this is the role individual personas will take in the buying process. You'll always have a champion. The champion is the person that is actively out to buy your product. They're the ones that are likely having the problem, and they're all in with buying something to fix it. So they're going to be present across the entire range of the buying motion or the buying journey. Influencers are people that may not have the ability to make the decision, but their input will definitely have a say in who makes it. So there's people that you have to sort of keep on side. There'll always be a senior decision maker, usually 1 or 2 steps above the champion. This is the person that in the end has to say yes and has the authority to write a check. Most of the products that get sold will have users. These are people that will be immediately impacted by the product you deliver, but in many cases, they don't necessarily have a lot of say. And then there'll be ratifiers. For a lot of our clients, as an analyst, I'm a ratifier. If they're going to buy something, they tend to ask me if it's a good idea or not. So as you can see, when you think about the buying journey, you have to think about who these roles are and which people are playing them, because they each have something a little bit different and a different view of the world. And here's an example of how that plays out. This is a pretty typical bottom-up journey. Your champion might be somebody that's operationally engaged in the problem that's being solved. They're the ones that you have to get to the point where they're interested in buying. And at that point, they can loop in the influencers and the senior decision makers to eventually get to the point where a decision is made. The good news is most of you guys, if you understand this buying journey and the personas that are actually playing the roles in this, it becomes relatively straightforward to craft the right content, to make sure that you're talking to the champion, for example, at loose and status quo, or making the selection with the right content, or know that the senior decision maker almost always pops up at committing to a solution or making the selection. The part that makes it a little more challenging, though, is that most of you don't have just one of those. We mentioned the top down and the bottom up. The bottom up one is the one we just showed, where it's an operational level person. The top down one, your senior decision maker is your champion. And as you know, the concerns and the interest and the needs of a senior decision maker, a C-level or VP level person, significantly different than what an operational champion looks for. So if you're going to support both of these, you have to be able to deliver content that will appeal to the CXO's need for, cost efficiency, competitiveness, compliance, et cetera, versus a champion in the operational levels need to just get this problem solved. We talked about demand type. Look how different it is as well. In a new paradigm demand type, it's a lot like the bottom up one. You're probably dealing with the person that's dealing with the problem on a regular basis. They're going to be the ones that explore the solution. They'll have to go one level up to get it approved, and the process is pretty straightforward. If you're sitting there and you realize after the earlier comments that you are actually in the business of selling something that's new concept, you have to focus on that education stage. And not only do you have to get the champion interested, you have to get that champion some air cover. So you almost have to deal with the executive and the operational level at the same time, because you have to get them both excited about what it is you're selling and both interested and ready to commit funds that, frankly, they probably didn't set aside originally to solve this problem. So understanding your buying journeys in the multiple and knowing where people show up is critical to make sure that you're delivering the right content at the right time. Because if you look, here's an example of the CXO. What we're showing here is that, as a CXO, a senior decision maker in this stage, they're going to have different questions across this stage, and the content that they'll be looking for is a little bit different. Similarly, with the CMO, you'll see that they're looking for, the content inside each of these will be different, but they'll also be responding to different things in the process. If you can sit down and work with your internal folks, use external research, go to people like Daniel and me to help define this, it makes life a lot easier, because your end goal is to build something that actually looks like this. You understand, if you can get to the point where you understand, what the topics are, what is it that they need to know in order to move through this buying journey, what is the best type of asset to deliver it in, the thing that will reach them the most, and what's the right delivery channel. If you can get this matched up, your your salespeople will have an easier job. You'll know exactly what to give them. If you don't have this matched up, then you'll struggle a little bit because you're either delivering the wrong thing at the wrong time, or even if you get it there in front of them, it's the wrong topic. So this is absolutely critical in making sure that you can make this work. And Daniel, I'd love to hear from you, like how you help your clients sort of bridge this big task that we just defined and put in front of everybody.
Yeah, I think the real challenge is so we identified that it's not a linear path that every buyer takes, and we don't come in the same. Every buyer doesn't come in the same way or the same level, and that's a real challenge from a marketing side, or from our traditional way we think about marketing, or even a sales approach. Right? We kind of have this structured sales process, or we have a nurture stream, and we might have variations on that, but we want to treat every buyer the same, even if we do it separate it by persona. And the reality is we need to figure out how, instead of creating linear tracks, even if we've gotten to the level of segmenting by personas, how do we actually make those tracks more dynamic and use all the information that our organization is gathering to really build the most effective way to deliver the right content to the right buyer at the right stage and right time. And that's something that we're working really closely with our clients on. And so how do you capture that information? And I'll talk about this a little bit, but it is about getting the information from all across your organization, having that integrated and connecting that together so you can understand where that buyer is and what the most important piece of information to deliver is. And I know you're probably all sick about hearing about sales and marketing alignment. It's a topic that comes up, if not daily, at least weekly in our company. And it's really, really, really challenging to maintain this. And it's not a new concept, but it's something we talk about at every major sales and marketing event. It's something we talk about on a daily basis in our own teams. But it's a present topic because it's not easy to do, but it's critical to us being successful. And you can't fix the gap between the buyer and the content and the sales cycle without bridging the gap between our internal teams, our sales, marketing, anyone who's our customer facing. And so on one side of the gap, sales teams feel like they don't have the marketing resources or data they need to do the job well. And that's where we get the request, hey, I need this piece of content. What I really need is XYZ, and marketing feels like we're scrambling to produce content to make that come together. And on the other side, marketers are frustrated. They don't get the insights into how the marketing materials are being used, or they feel like their content isn't getting used by the sales team in the best manner, or they use it at the wrong stage. And so what does this do to our bottom line? This has a major impact on it. And so that's why sales and marketing alignment is so important. But so the question we come back to is, so how do you get to the holy grail of sales and marketing alignment? And we've been on this quest for years on our own and with our customers. And we've learned quite a bit along the way. And today I'll share with you some of those learnings on just how we're doing this and how we're helping our clients do this as well with technology, systems, and processes, and a lot of the concepts that Gil just talked about.
I will say that, at Serious Decisions, we ran a study a couple of years ago that we called the economics of alignment. And we went through, our thousands of client histories. At Serious Decisions, we actually have conversion data, performance data on a lot of our clients. And we looked for markers of alignment between product, sales, and marketing. And what we found are the companies that exhibited good alignment, their growth was 5 to 19% higher than their competitors. So in the end, if you can fix this gap, that's the difference between good growth and great growth. That's the difference in a company that outstrips its competitors or sort of stays with the pack. So definitely, as much as people talk about it, it's because it's important.
Yeah, 5 to 19% better than your competitors, I think is the key part. Not 5 to 19% more growth, better than your competitors, which is
that's the difference. Yeah,
that's awesome. And so the next concepts, these may seem very obvious and basic, but time and time again, it's what we tend to skip, is what we find with our customers and marketers, because we take it for granted. And so the first core principle of really getting sales and marketing alignment is that we have to develop our processes together. We can't work in a silo. We can't expect the other team to care about, let alone implement our ideas, if they're not involved in helping us build and develop that. And developing these processes together is the fastest way align the teams and individuals around here's what our commitment is and here's how we're going to go do this, and then impact adoption later on. We also have to work together and design the goals for both teams. We all have the same outcome, but sometimes we get in our silos and we have our focus, and whether it's in marketing, I'm focused on pipeline, and sales is focused on revenue. I think we've bridged that gap in our evolution of marketing, where most marketers are trying to focus on the ultimate revenue number, but we can still get tunnel vision. And so we have to look at those leading indicators, but ultimately what's good for the organization, what's good for the company, and how do we all win, and align those goals to make sure that we are hitting that month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. The other component, which is key, is we have to figure out how we use the same tools. How do we get both teams on board using the same technology, the same tools, so that we can work more effectively together? So if your sales reps are living in Salesforce every day, you need to find a way to get the data from Salesforce and make that play nice with your marketing technology, your marketing automation systems, and analysis and attribution systems all together. And conversely, you have to be able to get alerts and messages based on marketing programs to help sales do better. So the technology is out there to help start bridging that gap, and we as marketers need to bring that together to enable our organization. And then that comes back to, we need to be able to share our data in as real time as possible. In the age of the customer, it's also the age of data-driven everything, right? Sharing customer data across the teams can result in real, actionable insights that improves our effectiveness across the board. And as Gil was talking about earlier, how that process isn't necessarily linear and different people want different content at different stages. This data helps us understand what content have they consumed, what content have they not consumed, so we can then correlate to, well, this is the content we need to now share, whether that be by marketing, sharing that content, or by sales. And that turns true sales empowerment. And so I'll dive into this in the next few slides on how you can actually make this come together. So the first role of marketing helping drive this with sales is we got to figure out the systems to make content easy to find. Start by keeping your content in one space that's easily accessible by sales reps no matter where they are. When you're small, this might be a Google Drive. It might be a shared user folder on your network drive. But that system doesn't scale very well and it's very hard. But at least you get the content in a consolidated place where everyone knows they have the most up-to-date content. You can't have every rep saving it on their desktop or saving it to their own private Google Drive or wherever it might be. You got to consolidate those systems. And so for us at PFL and the solutions we delivered, we believe everything should live in Salesforce. Someone once told me that if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist from a sales rep's perspective if that's the system of record they use. And so that's where we push to have that content. Put it in the systems that the reps spend the most of their time in. And we knew that introducing completely new site and login would hamper adoption. So like having a point solution is not something salespeople like either. If they have to go in and log into 19 things in the morning, that's not going to work. And so our own solution, Personal Marketing Center, is where we house organize our assets right within Salesforce. But the next component of just having that in one place is you have to organize that content. How do you make it logical? How do you make it so folks can understand how they can tag it, categorize, and also only share information with that sales rep that's relevant to their role? And so if you have content that's specific to an industry and you have sales reps who are not in that industry, don't show them that content. That just creates noise for them and potentially a bad experience if they do share that content by mistake. And so all that, you have to go through all that hard work of mapping the content to the personas and the buyer journeys that Gil discussed, and make that easy for your sales team. And so you need a system to help map that and present that content to the reps accordingly. And so in our example, we tag and categorize our assets by buyer journey stage, by topic, and by content goal. Such as I want to introduce myself or I want to restart a stalled deal. So logical stages that make sense to our sales team. We can also separate it by product, industry, and persona, etc. That way our reps can quickly find the content they need and find the most relevant asset for that prospect during this particular time. And that's kind of the key to make sure that we really want to we're delivering the only the content that's relevant to our sales reps, so the content that they're entitled to, that makes sense for the folks that they're selling to, and then it's organizing the stage the way the salesperson thinks, and also maps back to how the buyer thinks and how the buyer wants to evaluate the solution. So the next component about this is we can't, if we're just using a Google Drive or we're giving a shared folder, we have a content management system or digital asset management system out there, we're not giving our teams much context on how they can use the content. And as marketers, we have a plethora of data that helps us inform our future initiatives and make more personalized experience. But a lot of times we keep that data locked up and we keep it in the marketing team and we don't really share it with that. And so just think about if everyone in your organization could easily digest and access to understand prospect behavioral data, understand the trends and what's working. And so we integrate across the systems. So we for the behavioral data and persona data and all this rich marketing data that we're collecting from our marketing automation platform feeds to the reps to provide content recommendation based on their interests, their current behaviors, and email programs that they've engaged in. And so a quick example of this is if you're a wealth management company, if a prospect visits a website and is reading through articles on saving for retirement and then requests to be contacted by an agent, without insight into the prospect's browsing history, the agent might send a generic welcome email or worse, present a completely irrelevant topic into other insurance plans. And that's not a great experience for the customer. It's not a great experience for our sales reps to feel like they're not having that data to be delivered. And I know that's a B2C example, but we can think about the same sort of examples in our B2B world. How do we arm our sales reps with that right data that we already have? And when they're armed with that data, the next thing is our sales reps can move to the next level, which is personalization. And so personalization is not a new concept. It's been around forever. What we find is it's really hard to do well because personalization today is not considered dear first name in an email. We all just glaze past that. That's table stakes. We expect that. So how do we get to a deeper level of personalization? And so we have to leverage that data to help our salespeople get the right content to the right people at the right time. But we, as marketers, can also benefit greatly if we can use the human intelligence we have to really know how to best personalize that content. And that's where connecting the systems from the system the sales team is using with the marketing automation platform help us as marketers do our job better too. So now a human has identified the key reason they're evaluating the solution, the use cases that may be applicable, and we can use that across our marketing and across our sales enablement function. And so by mapping that data, having that in both places, we really arm our reps to be able to personalize, send off one-off content, and then when they personalize that content, we can then take those same factors the rep thought was important and use that in our marketing message as well. And this also allows a human to say this is the best place for the marketer, the marketing curated nurture streams to be deployed. So we can now put them into a campaign that is really relevant to them because a person has identified that. And it also allows us to kind of scale our ability to segment by personas, by companies, by interest, because from a marketing channel, at least on my team, we spend a ton of our time trying to segment and get our campaigns really, really small. But a lot of times our salespeople have more data on how those programs, how their accounts should be treated. And so if we can now allow our sales team to help guide the marketing actions we take by segmenting and building the list, and it's just part of their daily workflow, it doesn't feel like we're asking them to assemble a list for a campaign. It feels like these are the activities I'm doing every day anyway. We can get better content delivered to our prospects and improve those response rates. And so you, the marketer, in charge of balancing this openness with locked content so sales reps can't slide too far off brand or out of compliance, but also enabling them to deliver it easily throughout that buyer process. So the other component that is out there that we have found and we're seeing across our clients is that if we can start to orchestrate the experience across all of our channels, across our marketing and sales activities, that response rates go up. dramatically. And our research in the B2B space shows that a mix of channels that is not silos, that is well integrated, leads to much higher marketing effectiveness. And so marketers who currently ignore non-digital marketing channels report less than half the effectiveness of versus those who integrate non-digital channels. The failure to integrate these channels leads to poor marketing effectiveness and poor customer experience because we're giving different messages at different stages and through different mediums. And so marketers have taken the lead in driving amazing results using real-time personalization across the digital channels, and now it's time for us to take that across our tactile, our physical channels, and it's also time for sales to take and follow our lead, and it's our job as marketers to enable that. And to do that, we have to trust that our sales reps know what format a prospect will most likely engage with, and to give them access to easily execute and distribute that content, whether that be email, PDF, direct mail, video, social, whatever it takes. They might know that that prospect hasn't been engaging with emails lately, so they choose to send them a printed version of the same guide to get that message across. And it can be just as personalized with the technology today. So just as you shouldn't keep prospect data from sales team, your sales team shouldn't keep data from you. And so marketers need to have the insights into the content adoption and performance so we can shape and strategy and continually arm sales with the absolute best assets. Typically, the way this is looked, though, we have a sales enablement solution over here, and we have a marketing automation solution over here, and there's little to no integration between them. And so the key is capturing these critical insights without squashing a sales rep's precious time with admin tasks, because they know a lot about that client. And so we need to make sure the solution runs automatically in the background, and it just feels like magic. You may wonder about what metrics to track and to understand what does a salesperson care about. At a baseline, I recommend you track content adoption. How many times has a piece been shared, when and who, by who, and then compare this to the actual pipeline and revenue impacted. And just because an asset is being shared all the time doesn't mean it's effective, or maybe it's not being shared at the most effective time. And so by connecting the systems with the buyer's journey, you can now start to understand how and when we should deliver that and be able to share with the sales rep. So that's one of the most common questions I get when I ask a sales rep about why they aren't using content or something like that. They're like, I don't know what to distribute and when. So with the Personal Marketing Center, we can see full insight to how each content piece, format, and user influences opportunity and revenue right in Salesforce. And so this helps our sales rep see how the content's being adopted and marketing see what's being adopted and what content's being performed best. The Personal Marketing Center also integrates with the marketing automation platform. So sales rep email templates are sent on the back end through your marketing automation platform. And so now as a marketer, I know the response rates to those emails, and just like I'm looking at open rates and clicks and pipeline driven from my nurture streams, I can now see that on the sales emails. Best of all, it all runs in the background, and it feels seamless to the customer and to the sales rep. The shared view of the customer and content performance is a huge step forward for aligning our sales and marketing teams. It helps us be more productive and creates a collaborative selling environment across the company. So I have a couple of just key things that why this is important, and really this is how this impacts everyone involved. And let's start with the buyers on the right, but let's start there. So if we are really working on this, we're improving the buyer experience because we're mapping to how they want to be sold to, what is most important at that stage based on what they've indicated to both through their behavioral data on the marketing side and to a sales rep in person. And so this is helping them make an informed purchase decision. It's helping them be successful. And that's the most important area, because if our customers are successful, we in turn will be successful. And it also helps our sales team. It helps us form more intimate connections with buyers, helps increase that engagement. So it increases productivity. They're spending more time buying. They have a better understanding of what content across the organization has been distributed and where their gaps are, and that leads to improved sales goals. And on the marketing side, we really become the hero in our organization. We help seeing our content be adopted, be used appropriately, and be able to track and impact and have a real impact on the bottom line. So everyone wins in this scenario when we reach this holy grail of sales and marketing alignment. So just to recap real quickly, on what it is you need to do to help do this. We need to identify the buyer's journeys, prioritize the personas that we need to focus on, map our content to those personas and the buyer journey, install a structure and process and technology for sales and marketing to really truly be aligned, not have silos of data or tools that we're using, and install a structure for orchestration across every delivery channel. And we can't. We live in a multifaceted, multi-channel world. We can't focus on a single channel and call that sales enablement and expect the buyer to engage with us. And then we need to have that closed loop system that Gil talked about. We have to be reiterating over time and understanding what's working, what's not, and share that data throughout the organization. Gil, do you have anything to add? Did I get the recap and kind of cover what we needed to cover today?
Yeah, that's definitely the high points. I mean, I think if I could end with saying something, what I would say is the fact that we live in a multi-channel world is a double-edged sword. We have the ability to go out and reach buyers any number of ways, whether it's digital, non-digital, through the salespeople, but we have to be good at all of that. You know, in the end, the buyer sitting there doesn't take into account the fact that your digital team and your non-digital team and your salespeople are run by different orgs. You know, they're not going to give you credit because they understand the difficulties of how hard it is to align. They're expecting one experience and a good one at that. So the better you are at coordination, the better you are at getting the right messages to the right people with the right guidance for use, the better revenue and sales are going to be. So nothing else, you know, that's the value of alignment in this multi-channel world.
Yep, absolutely. So we have a couple of questions here. Gil, I'll put this first one to you. So we talked about the process and goals and aligning those together with sales and marketing. How do you avoid the problem of too many cooks in the kitchen, slowing down decision making and progress in your organization?
You know, it's funny because one of the things that you have to do is you have to get to a base level of assumption so that everybody can make their own decisions. You don't want to get to the point where every decision is, product, marketing, and sales sitting together trying to make it. They each have their own areas of domains that they can make those. But if they're going to make decisions that are aligned, they need to have a base common set of assumptions. Frankly, that's the buying journey, right? This is how people buy from us. This is who those people are, and this is what they need to see. If everybody shares those common assumptions, then everybody can make a marketing decision or a sales decision or a product decision separately and still know that they're going to end up in the same place. You know, where companies end up having to micromanage or where they get out of misalignment, they don't have that foundational understanding that they share to drive their decision-making process.
Yeah, and I would argue what may feel like it slows down the process, it actually speeds it up in the long run. When we see someone making a decision in a vacuum, it's normally a decision that ends up getting changed or reworked later on.
Exactly. Yeah. Churn and litigation. So.
Yeah. The next question I'll take. Can you give me more detail on how you give sales reps access to sending direct mail? And so obviously that's part of PFL's secret sauce. And that's integrating the technology solutions that we have right within Salesforce. We have a couple of different tools. The one I mentioned today, the Personal Marketing Center, is the most robust. And so just like you create email templates or any digital asset, you can create a direct mail asset that is tokenized and locked down to brand compliance or really flexible to be edited by a sales rep. And they use a WYSIWYG editor to control the content of that right within Salesforce, and then can send it, and it's logged to the activity log, and you know it's sent. And then notifications can update on status as well, right for that sales rep, or trigger the next action based on when it's sent, when it's delivered, etc. And so that's really kind of a high-level overview of how we do that. If you are interested, we're happy to show you a quick demo. There's some videos on our website that give a little more detail to that aspect as well. So I think that's all the questions we're going to have time for today. I'd like to thank Gil Canary so much from Serious Decisions to join us today and sharing that amazing research on how we can be more effective and increase those revenues by 5 to 19% more than our competitors with sales and marketing alignment. That's the stat that stood out to me today. I hope you guys found this content really useful. And as always, if you have any questions, you can reach out directly to PFL team. I'm happy to answer them, and I'm sure Gil would be as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.